I don't think there's any reason to panic on the Boston Celtics, and I have full confidence that this team at the end of the day is going to go back to back. Now, I know a lot of Celtics fans and people are concerned by this recent slump from the C's. 9-7 in their last 16 isn't great. They've been losing to teams that they should be winning, to say lightly. But at the end of the day, this Celtics team is finally getting healthy. They are struggling to shoot the three ball, and there are a few different things that you can look at as to maybe why they're struggling, but I think their three-point inaccuracy is the biggest reason as to why this team is struggling. Last year, they were one of the best three-point shooters in all of the league. That's what they've done. That's what they've been so successful off of, shooting that three ball, spreading the floor, getting that ball popping. That's what they did at such a high level. I believe they were number 2 in the league in three-point percentage last year, and right now I believe they're dead even at 16, and that's not the winning recipe for this C's team, and they're just going through a little bit of a slump right now. They're going to get it together. That's what happens, and we know that this team can win a championship. I felt like with the Celtics for so many years, it was, hey, this team can get to the postseason. Jason Tatum, can he elevate when it matters the most? Can Jaylen Brown elevate when it matters the most? And we never saw that in 2022 against the Warriors. Jason Tatum fell apart, and it was Jaylen Brown. The next year in 2023 in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was the exact opposite. Tatum really had to carry the load, and Jaylen Brown could not hit a shot to save his life. And we see this team go on and win a title last year, and it was really a great collective effort for both. I know Tatum's shooting numbers weren't exactly what everybody in the media wanted to see, but he led this team in points, rebounds, and assists, and he did so in the Eastern Conference Finals as well, and I thought he got snubbed of Eastern Conference Finals MVP and Finals MVP, but that doesn't matter right now. We're focused on this year, and we're focused on a team that is looking to do something that hasn't happened in a while, and that is a team that goes back to back, and that really has only happened with the Warriors in the last decade, and the Celtics are looking to break that streak, and I think a reason why we haven't seen teams do that is because they get complacent. They win that first title, and they're like, we've got it. We're good to go. But I think Joe Mazzulla, where he's different from so many of these other coaches, is he's showing his guys such unique strategies, these UFC videos on guys getting choked out, and it's like, hey, you got to stay in it to the last minute, because if you think you've won the fight, that's exactly when you lose and you get choked out. Or he's showing them killer whale videos. Like, he's showing this team all this crazy stuff to keep them sharp, and now he's looking at this challenge. Hey, we're 9-7 over our last 16. We're going on this Western road trip right now. How are we going to handle this adversity and use it to make us better? And they're a little over halfway through the season. They're number 2 in the Eastern Conference. We see Cleveland doing great at number 1 with their new head coach and Kenny Atkinson, who's been unbelievable. He'll win Coach of the Year for sure. We see New York winning a lot of games recently. They're now up to number 3 with this new and improved squad. Philadelphia is catching a little bit of heat now that Embiid is a little healthier. I know he's out for a few games, but he had that stretch where he was healthier. Paul George as well. And I'm looking at Boston now. I'm looking at Boston as still the big bad wolf in the Eastern Conference, still the team to beat in the East. We saw what happened when they played Cleveland earlier in the year. They beat them at home. And when they played for a second time on the road, they were up 12 points in the fourth quarter. They were down 3 starters. I believe it was Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, and Derek White, but do not quote me on that. But I know they were down 3 of their starters in that game. And it took a Donovan Mitchell flurry of threes to get the Cavs back in it and to ultimately pull it out. So I'm not worried about Cleveland. We saw what Boston did to them last year, beating them in 5 games. And I know it's a newer team in terms of how they play stylistically, but I'm not moved. I'm not moved by what Cleveland is doing. New York, Boston beat the brakes off of them in the opening night. I'm not moved by New York at all. I think Jalen Brunson is an unbelievable player, and Karl Anthony Towns has been playing that role really well, but I'm not concerned about this team. Boston has owned New York, and this New York squad is not going to just suddenly turn it around and beat Boston in a postseason series. And I'm still not worried about Philadelphia. I'm still not worried about Milwaukee. There's just some teams that are trying to figure it out, but simply can't right now. But I've simply got my eyes set on the Western Conference, and in specific, the Oklahoma City Thunder. We saw OKC knock off the C's earlier in the year, but I think this is great for them to get that loss underneath their belt, have that motivation for when they see him again. I think this is ultimately going to be the finals matchup. I'm super excited about it. You look at the different matchups in that series. I think Drew Holiday's got to be a lot better on his matchup against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was kind of getting wherever he wanted, and I think SGA is ultimately going to win the MVP this year. But you're going to have some great star-studded players, and not to mention OKC doesn't even have Chet Holmgren back yet. But this is going to be a great series nonetheless. For Boston, there are a few reasons why I'm not worried about this team at all. Let's start with number one. First of all, it's the three-point shot. I don't think this three-point shot is just going to magically vanish from this team. Sure, they're going on a little bit of a slump right now. If you want to say, hey, maybe it's a little bit of that championship hangover, sure. They just want to get into the postseason. I can promise you that right now. They want to get into the postseason healthy. But yeah, it might be a little bit of that championship hangover, and they're going to turn it on when they have to in the last part of the season. We'll chalk that one up to that. Number two, they have so much motivation everywhere they look. Of course, they have Joe Mazzulla, like I was talking about earlier, who is the ultimate motivator. But let's not forget what happened this summer. Jaylen Brown being snubbed from the Olympic team, Jason Tatum not getting the finals MVP, Jason Tatum not getting any time on the Olympic team. All of the noise, all of the criticism for both of these superstars, it's never been enough. And Jaylen Brown has to play better. He hasn't been playing to the level that we know Jaylen Brown can play at. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If you are a person in the media, if you're a fan, keep criticizing Jaylen Brown. How has that worked in the past? Hey, he doesn't have a left hand. He can't do this. Led the team in 2022 and really almost carried him to winning a title. In 2023, in the Eastern Conference Finals, he couldn't shoot the three ball to save his life. Jaylen Brown's not that good. He does not deserve this massive contract extension. Finals MVP. So say what you want about Jaylen Brown, give him all the criticism in the world that you want, but we've seen this story not end well for people that have criticized Jaylen Brown and people that have criticized Jason Tatum. So just keep it coming, keep it coming. You're adding more fuel to the fire for this team. And I think another thing that people are forgetting is the Kristaps Porzingis factor in this entire matter. He came back earlier than we had originally expected when he had that surgery this offseason. But please do not forget that Kristaps Porzingis barely played in that postseason run, and the Boston Celtics only lost 3 games. That should terrify the rest of the league. And now, if he's healthy, knock on wood, this team's going to be even better with KP. I just don't see anybody beating this Celtics squad. They know how to turn it on when it matters the most. And sure, maybe they're getting a little bit complacent because they won the title. Let's focus on the complacency aspect. Maybe it's because they won the title. They're just trying to get healthy. And maybe it's a little bit of that hangover. At the end of the day, I can promise you this right now. Once they head into that final post-All-Star break stretch, and once they get into the postseason, this team's going to be a juggernaut, and I don't see anybody beating them. I'm Caden Kubler, and thank you guys for watching.